welcome. We're back. The great Jonathan Hutton, nice enough to join us right here on Don't At Me.
Yo. Good to be back, man.
Glad you're here. Well, break down tonight's game. What are we going to see? What do you think?
I know. I heard you say you thought this was going to be a high-scoring game, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it could be. I honestly don't have a clue about these two teams anymore. I thought I did. Both of these teams, though, Dan, they've shown wild swings of greatness and mediocrity throughout the season. They played back on December the 12th or 13th. Arizona, in that game, beat themselves. They had red zone turnovers. They settled for field goals. Matthew Stafford on that day also played his best game of the season against the Cardinals defense. He completed like 11 of 14 passes in the second half, 2 touchdowns, threw for 170 yards. To me, Stafford's the key to tonight. And if you're willing to bet on him, then you take the Rams. He's streaky, though. He's just game to game is one thing, but he's like quarter to quarter because he'll throw 2 picks against the Vikings and then turn around and just have a streak of 2 or 3 straight touchdown passes. But the interceptions are what bugged me the most with the Rams offense. He has 13 picks in 9 games, and his last month of play he has 8 interceptions, and he's fully capable of doing the opposite too. And that's kind of the same way with Arizona. The Cardinals are a tough team to figure out because through half of the season, they're the best team in the league, and then they really struggled down the stretch, and it's mainly due to the red zone because they scored on just 8 of their 22 trips inside the red zone over their final 6 games of the season. So it's games like this in the postseason that drive me nuts because what you probably expect doesn't happen. And I think both of these teams are more run-oriented than what we may expect tonight. So while I may take the over, I'm probably 50-50 on that if I'm just being honest with you.
I thought early, I thought the Cardinals were a great story. Then I watched them late, and next thing you know, Kyler Murray was just okay. You know what? So I may have misspoke, but I just can't bet the under in any game. It's exhausting. You know what I mean? And is there a ton of pressure on Stafford? This is the first time really in his career he's been expected to really win, get to an NFC final, stuff like that. Be interesting to see how he handles all.
Yeah, and there were points, just like the Cardinals, the Rams got off to a roaring start, and we all saw the Titans go there on a Monday Night Football game and beat them, and you leave thinking, okay, they had their full arsenal, or just close to it. The Titans went in without Derrick Henry and still exposed them, and it was because of Stafford. Stafford started that streak of picks during that game, and you kind of look back and think, well, he's kind of been the same player he's always been in Detroit. They've just plugged him in now with a better overall team in L.A. That's still a very good quarterback. The top 2 wide receiving performances we've ever seen were by the hand of Matthew Stafford with Megatron, and then this past year with Cooper Kupp. So, I'm sure there's pressure on him. I don't know if there's as much pressure on him, though, as there is on Josh Allen, or if there is as much pressure as what Dak Prescott felt yesterday. But Stafford's going into it with a team that is all in. He's a veteran that went to L.A. and they went all in. Last offseason, this offseason, they are built for right now. It's not all on him, but it's about the quarterbacks this time of year for sure.
Oh, we saw that yesterday. Speaking of that, I mean, look, I think the Bills played the best game of the year, and I think Josh Allen was the player of the weekend.
It's hard to argue that. I mean, the Bills' offense was beating any team Saturday night. Any team. They were outstanding. Offensively, every single Buffalo possession ended in a touchdown, except for that kneel down at the end, and that was Mitchell Trubisky who took the knee. I mean, they have waxed the Patriots over their last 2 games with the facing New England. 18 possessions, 57 first downs, 11 touchdown, 2 field goals, no punts in either of the 2 games. And here are the Bills who can actually run the football now. Devin Singletary allows the offense not just to be about Josh Allen, even though it is about Josh Allen, and that makes them much more potent right now. Singletary had, 80 yards, a couple touchdowns in the game. McKenzie is contributing. Allen is running again, too. they faced just 7 third downs against New England. And in the postseason, you're going to have to win in a multitude of ways to get to the Super Bowl. This Bills team can do it because they've added an element now that we didn't see halfway through the season, and that's a run game. They're more balanced than what they may appear because Allen is contributing to the run game as well. And you're right about him. I mean, it is hard to be in a zone any more than Allen was on Saturday. And it came from that first drive. Buffalo came out swinging. Brian Daboll, he let Allen run. I thought that was a key to me. They called some runs to get him in rhythm and get the entire offense in rhythm. And it kept the Patriots were just off balance, kept them guessing. And that opening drive touchdown to Dawson Knox, beautiful, because Allen had what felt like 60 seconds to roam and throw. And then at the flick of the wrist, I thought he was just thrown out of the back of the end zone. I think Tirico did too, whoever was calling that game. Yeah. And then the pass was just perfectly placed in the back of the end zone, and Knox went up and made an outstanding grab. So, yeah, I mean, again, I think Allen, going into the weekend, I thought he probably felt the most pressure to go out and perform because this is a Bills team that has been anointed now. They're like the Chiefs 2 years ago. And Allen performed and Prescott didn't. It's every year for the Cowboys. It's this year for the Bills. And Allen has stepped up in a big way. He just destroyed New England.
Yeah, to your point about the Cowboys, I really didn't follow them or the Eagles a whole lot. I mean, but the show before mine on 107.5 is Greeny, and I swear to God, every morning when I drive in and I'm listening to the show, I hear about the freaking Cowboys. And I'm watching it. This is it. This is Dak Prescott. This is the guy who wants more money than Mahomes. Are you crazy? All right. Speaking of a guy, Joey Burrow to Chase. That's dangerous for you boys there in Nashville, big boy. Because Joey Burrow, although he has a punchable face, has a lot of toughness to him and a lot of moxie. That's going to be an interesting game, right there. I
love Joey Burrow. I mean, that guy is a baller. You know, he takes hits, man. Like he stands in there. He is not afraid to get down and dirty to win a game. And now he's got the duo of his former college receiver joining him, and they are so much fun to watch. They have connected right out of the gate, and this was not like a gradual buildup within this offense. It's not like they draft the first round receiver and the coach every week is giving excuse after excuse as to why it's taking so long to see production. Jamar Chase is fully capable of taking over a game. And it wasn't too long ago he was doing that against divisional opponents like Baltimore. And he can do it to anyone right now. I think the ingredients are there for Cincinnati to win. But I think the key to slowing down Cincy is something that the Titans actually possess. I'm not going out here on a Monday and saying I think the Titans are winning the game because I think Cincinnati can come in and win. But I think the key, Dan, in slowing the duo down, two things. First, you need a defensive front that can consistently get to the quarterback with 4 rushers and then allow 7 to cover, because this isn't just about Jamar Chase. He's the thoroughbred of the group. He's the star, but out of the gate, you got to be able to get to Burrow because he was sacked more than any quarterback this season. He was sacked 51 times in the regular season. So the pass rush has got to be consistent, and it's got to keep him off rhythm. And then number 2, your offense needs to be able to take the air out of a game. You got to limit their possessions by extending your own possession. And Cincinnati, they're young, they're talented. They believe. They don't know that they're actually likely a year ahead of where they should be. But their road now consists of road games. And if they get past the Titans, it's on Arrowhead or it's on to Orchard Park against the Bills. And I'm not sure if they're at that level yet. But Burrow and Chase, man, they sure do make them close to joining the conversation. And they're in it now. I mean, they're in the Final Four of their conference, and it is wide open. We saw a run like this from the Titans 2 years ago where they had to go on the road throughout and then ultimately made it to Arrowhead and just were not up to speed. Pardon the pun, but just could not keep up with Kansas City. This offense can run with them and run with anybody. But the question is, do you have an offense that can play keep away and really bury them late?
I don't like this debate, okay? I think it's idiotic, but it is something that I see constantly. In this debate, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. Okay. So it came up yesterday, obviously, because one won, one lost, right? Or over the weekend. I don't think there is a debate. First, I don't think there should be. They were a great combination together. But if you just go by what's happened after Brady left, obviously this is a dumb question because advantage Brady. I mean, right? I mean,
absolutely
cut and dry.
Well, I mean,
right?
any coach is going to miss the greatest quarterback of all time.
right. And they were a great pair together, regardless of what people want to think.
No doubt.
Right?
I mean, any coach I've chatted with, Dan, and I know you would probably echo this, you're only as good as your players. And that's absolutely true. And there's no debate that team was only as good as the greatest of all time behind center. And look, it's advantage Brady by an incredibly wide margin right now. But that should be expected. I think a lot of times media members act shocked for the sake of drumming up some momentum for whatever they're doing. This is a no-brainer. Whenever he left, if this were the NBA, Bill Belichick would have moved to LA to coach another team whenever the greatest left, like Phil Jackson did to go coach the Lakers. They're retooling in New England when you lose your franchise quarterback. It is an incredibly difficult process to do. The Bills, I mean, they're now reaching the pinnacle of their division for the first time in a long time. They didn't win a division title when Brady was in Foxborough, and they've now won the AFC East in back-to-back years. And they dominated the Patriots 2 times out of the 3 times they played them this year. I like pieces of New England's roster, and I think we may overlook them a bit the last couple of off seasons because they're lacking in some key areas, like at wide receiver, where Brady would make up for some of that. He's also played with a couple future Hall of Famers and a current one, and Randy Moss in that offense too. But a rookie quarterback, you've got to have some established pieces offensively. Because if you make them one-dimensional, like Buffalo did, where you get up 14-0, you're left throwing the football, and that is not where Mac Jones is right now. He can develop into that, but again, that takes time. I like their defense. I like how they tried to upgrade through free agency, but their pass rush let them down. This isn't just a quarterback thing. They had a very specific way to win games this year based on their makeup of roster. And they just had 2 sacks over their final 4 losses. They were trending in the wrong direction at the wrong time of the year. And the Bucs are the opposite. Despite losing players around him, Brady is someone you just can't pick against. And we're now seeing him stay unbeaten in the postseason. That's what he does.
Yeah, I got a lot, people. Well, Belichick's never won without Brady. I'm like, shut up. He's in a Hall of Famer. This is a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, I get what people are saying. It's a natural thing. In fact, I remember talking about it on my show. I'm surprised there's not like a counter on ESPN, how many wins one guy has. I get it. I do. I get that that's what we do, but I think it's crap. I've said this forever. All right? And we talked about this a bit earlier, Jonathan. I don't know what really constitutes a football guy, but I do know this. I don't know where Jerry Jones being the general manager and the guy making personnel decisions, coaching decisions, has been good for the Cowboys. I feel like you can put any coach in there, and year after year after year, this feels like the same thing to me. I don't know. Is Jones being a general manager to blame? Is Prescott? But the Cowboys are the Cowboys. That's who they are. That's what we see every year.
I agree. I don't know if Jerry's the problem this year, though. Like I'm looking at that roster yesterday and watching them just melt away with all those penalties. I mean, that's not a general manager issue. Right. They were built. Right. They were built to win. Last year they could not win in what was a terrible division. They didn't win the division. This year they did that. But look, I'm sure Mike McCarthy's a bit nervous this morning because Jerry wants another title. He's not getting any younger. He wants another Lombardi trophy. And when you consider that the owner is the general manager and he put the talent that he's pieced around that entire organization compared to some of the teams we're watching this year, I don't know if I think you could put a different coach in there and you could win some games. And that's not, I'm not trying to say McCarthy's terrible because we've seen him do it in Green Bay. But this was one of those years where they were doing some great things. They're the top to Jerry Jones' credit, they're the top scoring offense. They have a defense with a boatload of takeaways with 2 young stars that are going to be all pros. And once again, they failed to come close to exceeding expectations. And I know they're thinking Super Bowl because it's the Cowboys, but this franchise needs to look at this like a staircase. And they seem to be stuck on this like third or fourth level where they're climbing, but it's just not very high. Like they couldn't win the NFC East last year. This year they do that, but beyond that, what's next? It's not like you automatically jump into the Super Bowl conversation. This is now 11 straight playoff appearances where they have failed to reach the NFC Championship game. And it's now the 7th time in those 11 playoff appearances where they've been one and done. So I think that the hype around them plays into the fact that what you're talking about, Greeny and everyone else, they lead off shows talking about the Cowboys. You're doing it right now. We'll do it later today on Outkick 360 because people want to discuss the Cowboys. There is no denying that. They put up the top ratings on the top rated sport in America and the world. And it's all about that star. And the star, make no mistake, is Jerry Jones. And he put together what was a star-studded lineup this year, and they go out and lead the NFL in penalties. They had 6 pre-snap penalties yesterday, and 4 or 5 of those penalties led to automatic first downs. That's not a winning franchise, and it doesn't look like a very well-coached team. I don't think that's a general manager issue.
I don't either, but he's been there a long time, and and your numbers with 11 straight years not even getting to an AFC championship. It's not like, I always said this about the Cubs. The Cubs are a big market team that acts like they're a small market team sometimes in terms of getting and spending. I also said this about Steinbrenner. If you remember, when George Steinbrenner took it over, he knew what he had in the Yankees, so he went out and acted like the best and the biggest, the brightest, and Jerry Jones has done that. And I agree totally with you. You could argue this year, and all right, let me ask you this. When you look at penalties and you look at coaching, everybody pins it on the head coach. I would argue, man, what are these position coaches doing? Who hired these guys? Because you know what? Those are the guys in those rooms, and those are the guys on the field, hands-on coaching these guys. Assistant coaches, I think, sometimes get a hell of a pass because of the pressure on a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah,
you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the players don't deserve a pass either here because
exactly right. Because nobody teaches you to hold in practice. Right.
Yeah, they're not throwing many flags in practice either. But maybe they should. Maybe they should in practice in Dallas. The Titans went through a turnover phase here. And all we saw Vrabel do is preach turnovers and takeaways, and they've turned that around within the last 3 or 4 weeks. The Cowboys stayed exactly the same. They had 127 penalties going into the game. I mean, that was right there with the Raiders. The Raiders led the league in penalty yardage. Dallas led the league in penalties. And at some point, you have to address it. I just don't think they ever addressed it from the assistant coach to the head coach. You can talk about it all you want, but, I mean, when that game got tight yesterday, and they were lucky to even get the football back for that finish based on some penalties going on, where you're bear hugging on defense, a defensive holding call. I mean, it's all just bizarre with how they just melted under pressure. And they were a really good team that ultimately isn't one of among the best teams because they couldn't live up to the expectation. And I don't care how good your offense is, if you're constantly either turning the football over like they were yesterday, or they're committing penalties and keeping teams hanging around. The league is built to be a fourth quarter game, and the Cowboys are allowing you to make it a fourth quarter game no matter how many points they score based on the way they play.
All right, let me go back to the game tonight. Cardinals Rams. Who you like?
I like the Cardinals. I've been on the Cardinals all year. I don't trust either of these teams first and foremost. The Rams, though, they're down a couple of safeties. They've signed Eric Weddle now. The Cardinals are fully capable of pushing the ball down the field. However, the reason I don't trust them as much as I did to begin the year, or even two-thirds of the way through the season, is Hopkins isn't available yet. And that might be the missing link. I'm sticking by what I've said even at the trade deadline, though. I thought that the trade for Zach Ertz was the best trade at the deadline for this time of year. And I think the Cardinals can get after the middle of the field against some safeties that haven't been with the Rams all that long. I think Stafford's going to throw the football around. I also think that includes a turnover or two. That's just what he does. Murray is capable of making things look acrobatic. I call them circus throws, where he's throwing not just off his back foot, but off his back heel and just letting it rip. That can come back to bite you. I trust the Cardinals' run game a little bit more than I do the Rams, and I think it's one of those classic playoff games. We didn't get many of those in Wild Card Weekend, but this is not Bills Patriots where we get the third time rematch and it ends up being a whitewash. I think this is a tight game that's going to be a lot of fun.
Murray plays better than Stafford. Stafford better than Murray, or they both play really well, or they both play horse bleep. Which one you think?
I think it's probably a mixture of both. You know, these guys are roller coasters during the games. You know, and Murray to me is more streaky week to week than Stafford. Stafford's going to give you that during games where he'll go out one series and they're, 5 plays, 82 yards. He'll put up 6. I mean, it looks exactly what they put together. And then comes back out and throws a pick 6. He had 4 or 5 pick 6s this season. So it's not uncommon to see him do that. I think for whatever reason, Murray plays better on the road than he does at home. They're 8-1 on the road this season, including a win in LA. The familiarity is intriguing because they face that Rams defensive front twice a year anyway. So they are familiar with what they're going to try to do and how they use Donald, who's one of the best, if not the best defender in football. So again, I think both quarterbacks give you a lot to like, and Murray and Stafford both are going to have some boneheaded decisions, but these offenses are built to allow a little bit of cushion for that to happen.
You like the path of the Titans?
Kind of. I think the toughest opponent is Buffalo. If they're able to go beat the Chiefs, I'm hesitant to say that they get past the Bengals. I think the Titans can run it on them on Cincy's defense.
Is Henry playing?
Yeah, he's going to play. He's going to play because this week will be the 3-week window where they can activate him. You don't activate him when they did, unless you're planning on playing him in Wild Card Weekend, if needed. I think he would have played this week if they were in the postseason and had to play and they didn't get the number 1 seed. He gets the extra week. I think he's playing. I think they can get to Burrow with 4. They added Dupree. They've had some great play at times from Jeffrey Simmons and Harold Landry and Danico Autry. Again, they have a front that I think matches up well with Cincy, and I think they can run it on Cincy's defense, even though Cincy's defense is much improved, a lot like the Titans. But I also believe that this could end up being the toughest game on the path to Los Angeles because you're getting an extremely hot, streaky Cincinnati team coming on the road, and the Titans are gearing back up after the bye week. And you're also doing that with Henry coming back for the first time in 10 weeks. So I think if they can come out of the gate firing on some cylinders that we haven't seen them do on a routine basis, it's not going to be difficult for the Titans. However, I think they're routinely a slow starting team anyway, and I think the divisional round can end up being the toughest game on their stretch.
You're the best, man. Have a great
You are,
show
Dan.
Today. Appreciate,
good morning to you. And
your
staff is awesome there, too, with Outkick. Love the show. I'll be tuned in for the rest of it.
No, I'm watching you guys at 3 Eastern. Thanks, Jonathan.
All right.
Thanks, my guy.
Later, man.